Gentlemen, it is Monday. Hope your weekends went well. It was a tough one for me, but we throw it in the trash and we move forward. It gets tougher now as bye weeks start to hit. So we're going to talk about some players that are going to help you either this week or in the future as you have to face them. Today we're going over 15 players in total. We're going to hit 2 quarterbacks, 5 running backs, 4 receivers, and then a pair of tight ends and defenses so we can continue to stack those rosters as we push for the fantasy playoffs. If you are new or if you haven't done it yet, please like and subscribe. It really helps me out, enables me to do what I love so I can keep bringing you the content that you love. You can also hit me up on the Sleeper app at The Real Guru, capital T, R, and G, to chat there, and I would love to answer your questions. But enough of all that, let's get into Week 7's waiver wire targets. We are going to start at quarterbacks, where both of these guys face off against each other in Week 7 in what could be a high-scoring affair as the defenses have been below average to say the least. It starts with Tua Tagovailoa, who has finished as a top 10 last week after coming back from an injury. He threw for 329 yards and a pair of scores against Jacksonville in London. In addition, he has solid matchups in not just this coming week, but 2 out of the next 3, so he could be useful as your quarterbacks go on byes. He's available in over 75% of leagues, and the Falcons, who he gets this week, allow the top 5 points per game to quarterbacks. Next up, we have Matty Ice. Now, Ryan is available in 50% of leagues, coming off of his own bye, and gets that great matchup against Miami, who has really struggled to defend the pass. In addition, he gets Calvin Ridley back, which will be a huge boost to this offense. We now move to running backs, and there were unfortunately some key injuries at the position for managers in Week 6. So we need to start filling those voids, and it starts in Cleveland, where there are a couple options for us. D'Ernest Johnson and Demetric Felton both could see time now that Nick Chubb has been dealing with injuries and Kareem Hunt is newly going to be added to the IR. Now, this is a Thursday night matchup for them, so we need to keep an eye closely on what the news is for Chubb. He could still play, but I would deem it very unlikely. We know the Browns want to run the ball, and these guys are going to be the ones to do it. I like Johnson more as the first and second down back, who's going to see the majority of the carries. Felton is the guy that they'll use more often on third down and see some touches out of the backfield catching it. This is a much less scary matchup than we would have thought a couple weeks ago in Denver, and they should be able to take advantage. We move to Washington, where the shin injury for Antonio Gibson finally reared its ugly head and kept him in and out of the game against the Chiefs. Even when he was in, he did not look very good, and J.D. McKissic was able to take full advantage. He had 16 touches in this game for over 100 yards and looked excellent. Now, McKissic is going to continue to see work in the passing game, whether Gibson plays or not. However, with this shin injury, there is potential that they actually keep him out, rest him up this week, and next they have a bye, so it would give Gibson 2 weeks to get healthy. If that is the case, and McKissic is the only back there, he immediately would slide into that RB2 conversation. McKissic is available in over 50% of leagues, and he could be the top addition of the waiver wire this week. We move to New York next, and Michael Carter may have become available in many leagues. He's available in almost 45% of them after their bye last week. If he is available and you have an extra spot, certainly look to add him for the long term. 5 of his 6 games from weeks 11 through 16, when you are pushing and into your fantasy playoffs, are plus matchups, and he could really help you in that stretch. Now to Foxborough, where a guy we talked about a little last week needs to be higher on your priority list. That is Ramondre Stevenson, who had 62 yards and a touchdown on just 8 touches last week, and could be continuing to carve out a larger role in this offense as Damian Harris is banged up some more. and there is going to be opportunity in this offense moving forward. Stevenson is available in 85% of leagues and is a great stash for depth. We move next to Baltimore, where Devonta Freeman saw some extra work after Latavius Murray went out of the game with an ankle injury. We're not sure what the extent of it is. However, I would still say Freeman's worth an add because he looked very solid and even potentially more explosive than Murray did in this game. He's had 13 touches and 88 yards with a touchdown in his last 2 games and is going to continue to see work in that Baltimore run game. They have 2 solid matchups after their bye week in week 8 as well, which just adds to his value. As we move to our wide receiver options, we're looking for depth and upside, and Donovan Peoples-Jones has that in spades. He exploded in week 6 with 101 yards and 2 touchdowns, and he also had 60 yards in week 5, so this may not be just a flash in the pan performance for him. Odell Beckham dropped his second 4th down pass in as many games. He is banged up and in general has just not looked so good in this season so far, so I like Peoples-Jones as the potential wide receiver 1 in this offense, at least until Jarvis Landry returns from IR. Speaking of coming back from IR, welcome back Rashad Bateman. He looked very solid in his first game back from injury. He saw 6 targets, caught 4 balls for just 29 yards, but what you love to see is his inclusion in the offense right off of the bat. We know Baltimore is going to score. They've had drop issues, and Bateman might be someone who helps fill that void. He's not going to be in our lineups right away, but he is a solid stash for teams that are needing wide receiver help. A player who might have been forgotten due to his injury in week 1 is Michael Gallup out of Dallas. Now, Gallup is available in over half of leagues, and it looks like he is going to return after Dallas's bye in week 7. We know there are a ton of mouths to feed in Dallas. However, any piece of that offense is valuable as they put up a ton of points. He also had 7 targets before going out with injury in week 1, so there is a clear connection with Dak. Keeping with the pieces in a high-scoring offense theme, Mecole Hardman is a good add this week. He has 138 yards in his last 2 and is averaging 9 touches a game in that span. He is available in 50% of leagues, has over 50 points in his last 5 games, and that is a valuable asset to have as bye weeks start to attack. We move to the most challenging position in fantasy football in tight end, and we have a couple decent options for you guys, especially streamers, this week. We talked a lot about Ricky Seals-Jones last week as our streamer of the week, and he responded with that 39-yard touchdown against the Chiefs. He has almost 100 yards and a touchdown with 9 catches in his last 2, and he's going to see at least 1 more start before Logan Thomas returns from IR. If you are desperate for the position and don't have any other options, you could do worse than Cole Kmet, who caught 4 out of his 5 targets for 49 yards last week against the Packers. The Bears' offense finally started to show at least a little bit of life, and there is really nothing else out there on the waiver wire currently. The final 2 waiver wire additions we have for you are on defense, and there are a couple good options, thankfully, for streamers this week. It starts in New Orleans, where the Saints are already a current top 3 defense and now get to face a Seahawks offense that had 3 first downs and 65 total yards in the first half against Pittsburgh. They are a top 5 start at the position this week. And then next is the San Francisco 49ers, who are fresh off of their bye, and they get a decent start not only this week but next as well, which is perfect for you out there streaming. They are getting Indianapolis this week and then Chicago the following, and they're both available in over half of leagues. And that's all I got for you guys. Thank you so much for joining me here today. Keep an eye out for more videos that we'll be releasing later in the week. If you're new, if you haven't done it yet, please like and subscribe. This is Relentless Press. I am your host, Abraham Opatz, and we'll see you next time.